game school. As I say, there's no school like the old school, and I'm the headmaster. If you've listened to any of the other episodes, then you would have already heard me talking about the start of my journey in gaming, in terms of playing games and enjoying games. Previous episodes we've talked about the introduction, or my introduction to Atari, which was pretty amazing, and then moving on to Sega sort of Mega Drive and these sorts of things, and we're sort of leading basically up now to the first PlayStation that I got, or I got the very first PlayStation at the time. So yeah, I loved the Mega Drive. I absolutely really enjoyed it, and actually I was waiting for the next big Sega console, but I got wind of when I listened to the game shows at the time. I think there may have been a game show called Games Master or something like that on, and they sort of started mentioning Sony were going to have a games console out, and I remember thinking at the time, Sony, really? You've got these two huge games companies or gaming companies, Nintendo and Sega, that were just the giants of the games at the time. And one of the a company like Sony, obviously they're huge, but an electronics company coming in under the radar like a ninja, and not just producing a games console that's gonna rival these guys. It's a games console that was gonna blow it out the water, to be fair. So, and that's exactly what it did. So I was one of these guys that literally, I couldn't wait. I knew that, from what I'd seen of the games and the games that were coming up, or that were being released with it, it just looked way better than anything else I'd seen on the Atari and the Sega Mega Drive and even the SNES. So I like I said, I waited. I got it on release day. Got one of the very first ones. Came with an amazing demo disc. I remember the demo disc now, and it had things like just a dinosaur walking, that at the time looked amazing. Looked pretty incredible. And it had some manta rays, swimming around, these sorts of things. I was just like, wow, this is as good as it's going to get. And the games were just upper gear again already. It was a different league. They really were a different league. Phenomenal. The first game I think I got was I think it might have been Wipeout with it, actually. So there were a few games, Tekken as well, but Wipeout was the first game that that I got that with the Sony PlayStation. Got that, started playing Wipeout, and yeah, it was just this is it's the fastest game. It was like Sonic, but on steroids. And you were flying these amazing ships, racing ships that just shot your opponent or left bombs for it, all these sorts of things. It was just absolutely unbelievable. And at the time as well, I had a lodger as well, a guy I was working with, who's sort of staying in our spare room, and a few of us were heavy gamers at the time, and it was just competition time. That was it. So we would spend total Friday night, weekends, all weekends, pretty much, you know, trying to outdo each other on Wipeout, and it was just ridiculous. And the soundtrack had, obviously, you know, this drum and bass sort of soundtrack, electro soundtrack, phenomenal, you know. And even today, you know, Wipeout is I can't think of anything else that's come fairly close to that type of excitement and exhilaration. We'll talk about it later as well, because they've just re-released a new Wipeout game, or not long ago released a Wipeout game. And yeah, so that was amazing. I was, again, really happy that, you know, I joined the PlayStation revolution. This time, you know, obviously, I really thought I'd back the right guys here, and Sony really, you know, they absolutely blew the rest of the game consoles out the water with this, and it was done on a CD. That was the big difference. And I think Sony had piled all their investment in, you know, almost future-proofing the games world, their console. Cartridges had its day. And I remember, you know, I'd go around to friends' houses, and they, you know, still had the Mega Drive or the Nintendo. You know, they're still sort of bulky cartridges. They were horrible to sort of stack or keep or, you know, put anywhere. It was literally in a bag somewhere, or, you know. And CDs were just, again, you know, thin, and, you know, everyone was into CDs at the time. So it seemed like the natural sort of thing, really. You know, I know today we're doing downloads and, you know, still on Blu-rays and things like this, but it really at the time, that was the shift, huge shift. I know Sega they dabbled into it. They had, you know, they brought out this 32, you know, the Sega Mega Drive 32, which you plugged into the cartridge of the 16, or you plugged into the cartridge of your Mega Drive to play, and then they had a CD add-on box, the Mega Box, or I think it was called something like that, which you know, again was okay, but it wasn't ideal. It really wasn't ideal. So yeah, so Sony came along, much smaller console as well. It looked pretty cool, and yeah, the marketing of Sony, obviously they had piled a lot of money into this. It was just amazing. It really was. Again, talked about it yesterday, but it had that wow factor. You know, everybody wanted one. You know, I need to get one of these. Oh my god. And they were unrivaled at the time. You know, it seems crazy now, but literally, it couldn't have been long at all before, you know, if someone had a Mega Drive, or they had, you know, a Nintendo, it already seemed out of date, you know, not long afterwards, because, you know, because of the Sony investment in CD technology, and you know, playing games on a CD, which is brilliant. And the other thing about it, the really cool thing actually I quite enjoyed, was that you could record the soundtracks off the games. So if you had a CD writer, you could record the soundtrack and just listen to, you know, Chemical Brothers or whatever it was on the soundtrack. It was phenomenal. So I actually quite enjoyed that as well. But the games, yeah, so Wipeout was my first installment, and then came along things like Tekken, and Tekken again, you know, I love fighting games. I love Street Fighter on the Nintendo, on the Mega Drive, and it was all pretty good. But Tekken, literally just, you know, anybody could play Tekken. It was the fastest fingers won type of scenario. And I remember, you know, one Christmas having a load of people round, and it was, you know, like a 16-year-old playing against some, you know, a 70-year-old, and nobody knew what the hell they were doing in terms of moves and special moves and, or, you know, combos and things like this. But it was absolutely hilarious, and that, again, you know, for me, I love that side of it. It was pretty cool. So the PlayStation 1 was just more than just a games console. I found at the time it was what I would, you know, they almost broke into the entertainment sort of system side of it. Not quite, we weren't quite there. You know, they had a few sort of things coming on board, and there was a lot of development. You know, I used to get the PlayStation magazine every month as well, and I would have a demo disc with all the latest sort of good games coming through. And there were two games that really did change my sort of view on what games could produce or could make you feel, because that's what the game is all about. It's what it makes you feel, the escapism, these sorts of things. I think it's about doing things in a game that you can't necessarily do in the real world. You know, for, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto, for instance. I mean, obviously it's not, I would never want to shoot and kill and drive over anybody, but, you know, in a fantasy, you know, sort of world of gaming, you can just be this maverick character, do whatever you want to do. Or, you know, Resident Evil, shoot zombies. I'd never want to be in a world where, you know, a zombie type thing would exist. But in a horror survival world, it's amazing. It's incredible, you know. Or these sorts of things. And I think that's the other thing with gaming. So it allows you to do that. But PlayStation, the games that they were developing or being made for them or developing themselves, took this to a whole new level, I think. So the two games for me that really opened my eyes to this was, one of them was Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil. I remember going to the States with staying at some friends, and I saw Resident Evil. I think it must have been just released, but obviously in America, in the States, it was released before it was in the UK. And I went to, I don't know, a game store or something, and just saw this game, and you know, I love horror, absolutely, as a, you know, always have done. In fact, I've just had, me and a friend have video marathon weekends where we'll just sit and get drunk and chat and be silly, and we'll just watch movies pretty much all weekend, a few of us, and you know, just chat, and they're normally themed. The last theme was horror, you know, so that was pretty cool. So anyway, so Resident Evil came out, and it was this survival horror game, and you know, something I'd not seen before. It was very, very new, very different, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. That blew me away, you know. I couldn't get enough of that. That really was amazing, and actually, you know, quite scary at times. You know, you never knew what was going around the corner, and yeah, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And the next game from then on was Metal Gear Solid, which again was like obviously a war game, but it was just, again, took the gaming to a whole new level, an absolute whole new level. It was unbelievable. Pretty cool though, pretty cool. So we can talk a little. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this stuff tomorrow with you guys, and I'm going to give you the next instalment of, you know, moving up to the next PlayStation, which again was pretty phenomenal. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying it. If you like it, like I say, give us a thumbs up. If not, you know, comment, give us a thumbs down, whatever you need to do. But yeah, just remember one thing, you know, there's no school like the old school, and I'm the headmaster.